Hello, Mainers. I'm not putting up 22 images, so I'm just going to explain this. So, a high pressure is currently developing right now in portions of the southeast. So, this will move to the northwest just a slight bit, and what it is going to do is pump heat and moisture straight out of the Gulf of Mexico, as well as offshore as well. And I'm sure you can see this here. This is reason why there is a 10% a 10% to I think it's a 10 to 20% or just 10% chance of tropical development. We're not expecting anything major out of this. However, we're expecting this high pressure to just basically stall here for essentially the next 5 days. It is going to be a miserable and hot, pretty much soupy air mass Tuesday through Saturday. And the hottest days I expect to be are Wednesday. Wednesday's questionable right now, but really the hottest day one will likely end up being Thursday, where the whole entire state of Maine, well, not the entire state of Maine, but up and down the I-95 corridor, we could have temperatures as hot as 90 to as much as 95 plus degrees, and some areas approaching even 100 degrees. And along with that, dew points will be pumping. And we have not seen quite a heat wave like this in quite for some years. I know last year we had quite the heat wave. This one is going to be a little bit special. And the reason why so is now we have agreement between the European model and the GFS model that there is confidence that we are going to be seeing a heat wave. And it's not going to be your average heat wave. It is going to be a full-blown classic East Coast heat wave. And this is not the only area that's going to be experiencing it. It is also going to be portions of the Midwest. And unfortunately, this is also part of what is fueling a severe weather outbreak across portions of the upper plains. This includes areas of North Dakota, South Dakota, and Minnesota mostly today, with a damaging wind threat as well as a tornado outbreak potential and damaging winds. So let's get right into it. So right now, like I said, if we look at the upper level map here, and we take a look at the height anomaly here, you're going to see a bunch of colors, right? But this is an area of low pressure, or not so much low pressure, but colder air aloft, and this is warmer air aloft. As you can see, as we go through the next couple of days, it's just gonna kind of just stay there. So this is a ridge. So this is basically a high pressure system. This is about 500 millibars high in the sky, so well over basically halfway to, I guess you could say space. And it is going to be pumping in moisture from the Gulf, and it is all these, and here's more, of that. So if we go to 500 millibar temperature, height and wind, you can see here, sorry for the slow loading, you can see there's high pressure here already. And all this warm air is warm air. And it is only going to get stronger. So this is an upper level low up here in portions of the northern plains. And then there's another area of an upper level low that is going to be swinging through as well. And as we get through pretty much Wednesday, this high pressure is going to expand in size and it's going to continue. You see all these wind barbs. They're not facing, they're all facing this way. Any high pressure flow is around the high pressure. So if you can see the actual air things here, everything is moving in this direction, even if it doesn't look like it. This is going to continue to stay here until probably finally sometime on Saturday before this thing finally breaks up. But then we should see a reload of the same typical pattern. And well, this is a bit far out, but El Nino is kicking into full gear. And as I've said before, this one could be a pretty brutal summer, I'm not going to lie, based off what we're already observing. So, let's go straight to the facts. So, first off, temperatures. The European model and the GFS model have not been agreeing very well. But this high pressure is going to just fuel, I meant to go to temperatures, not precipitation. This is just currently, or this is in the afternoon hours. This is starting tomorrow, about midnight here. And we are going to see a surge of heat just come out of this. High pressure is still in control and is going to be pumping the heat right up into our direction. As you can see, tomorrow is going to be it's going to be decently warm. We're going to get into at least the mid and upper 80s, low to mid 80s in portions of Maine, especially interior Maine, pretty much around the I-95 corridor. And Tuesday is when things get worse. We see a cool down, obviously, like every summer night, but you don't typically see temperatures in Maine overnight only sink down into the 60s. In some cases, it could even be 70s. And then Wednesday is going to get brutally hot. So, again, high pressure is still in control. You just can't see it on this map. Pumping moisture out of here, and you're going to see that in a minute. Pumping moisture through the Gulf of Mexico. And we could see temperatures as high as 90 to maybe 95 degrees in some locations. I expect it to be mostly low 90s. This is going into Wednesday. And then Thursday is when things really, really crank, okay? So it is going to go full-blown. We are going to be stuck in the 70s overnight. And it is not a very typical atmospheric conditions to experience high, low to upper 70s statewide on a summer night in June. It is not very typical for Maine whatsoever. And it is currently fueled, like I said, by an upper level ridge that is going to continue to just pump in heat and moisture. And then Thursday, it is just off to the races. We immediately get into the upper 90s, well, not upper 90s, but 93 degrees in Bangor, mid 90s down in southern Maine, and I would not be shocked to see a few areas in southern Maine, especially west of Portland, southwest of Portland near Saco, potentially reach 100 degrees on this day. So as you can see, full-blown heat wave is just cranking up the coastline. And so many areas are probably likely going to be breaking records because of this. And this is just one model run out of 1,000. I've been trying to monitor it all. The GFS model has been absolutely horrendous at the forecast this week. And then Friday is going to be another very hot day. Not as hot, but I still think temperatures will easily make it into the 90s, and by midday especially. And some areas in southwestern Maine, especially Portland, Saco area, they could reach closer to 95 degrees. It doesn't look to be as bad of a day. And then finally, Saturday is when things finally start to calm down, but we will still likely at least reach the mid 80s, maybe even upper 80s and low 90s. And then finally, this heat wave turns off, well, for at least a little bit. We're still going to be seeing moderate temperatures into the 80s, just not excessive heat like you're seeing all the way up the eastern seaboard. Now, here is what I'm talking about as far as the dew points go. So, here's the actual current dew, well, this isn't the current dew points, but this is what a moisture flow push looks like. So we have an area of low pressure back here that's controlling, and it's got a huge cold front that is just pumping in moisture straight out of the Gulf of Mexico, and you can see widespread low to mid 70s. This is a very tropical air mass, very tropical. You do not see this every day. And Tuesday is when we kick things into gear. Tuesday, I think it's going to be just a little bit of a little taste of it, just a little tiny taste, and it's not even really a taste. You can tell the difference between 50, 60, and 70 degree dew points. 60 degrees is very, I can't say it's doable for sleeping, obviously, but it's definitely doable for daytime. And this combined is going to create for pretty high heat indexes. So this is going through midday on Tuesday. And then Wednesday, you pretty much already know what's going to happen to expect here. This is going to pump it right into Maine. Watch this. Wednesday, we are straight into the mid and upper 70s. And look at this huge pull. Some areas could even approach as high as 80 plus degree dew points, which is just straight up miserable. This is the kind of heat and humidity you see in portions of Australia and other portions of the country, not the US especially. And even down to the coastline, areas could legitimately be into the mid 70s for dew points on Wednesday afternoon. And look at these dew points potentially even reaching close to 75 degree dew points in portions of central Maine. It does not end there. We get a reload Thursday night or Thursday afternoon and evening hours where we have mid and upper 70s throughout portions of Maine and up and down the eastern seaboard all the way. This is all being pulled by a ridge. The ridge is probably about right here, and it is all just dragging moisture right up through here. And then Friday is finally the last day of this drama scene. Well, part of it anyways. We will still likely see dew points mid and upper 60s, most definitely. But we are definitely going to see a reoccurrence of the dew points in the low to mid 70s once again. And then Thursday and then Saturday, we're going to see a cold front develop and kind of come through here and finally wash this thing out for a good portion. And we're still going to see dew points one last time into the mid and upper 70s. Combined with that 80-degree temperatures, you're talking probably heat indexes as high as low 90s to potentially even upwards of 100 degrees. And then finally, things start to calm down a little bit. But I expect this pattern to continue to keep going because we are heading into a historic El Nino, most likely. Now, to further support this, if you take a look at the GFS model and how it's turned out through the very last model of today, Model 1, excuse me. I'm just going to make this very quick and smooth because I really do not feel like posting 22 pictures. So the GFS is finally starting to kind of see the European way of things and the European models and ensemble models have been hinting at this heat wave for, as far as I know, at least a couple of days before we actually saw the temperatures to 80 to 90 degrees and to 100 actually begin. So first we get agreement, which is a very good sign, on Tuesday, which is tomorrow, with the GFS model. We easily see temperatures rising all the way again. High pressure will be fully in control with pumping this moisture in. Mid to upper 80s are likely. And then you can see with the dew point here, if we just do the dew point here, let me get to the right place here. Dew points, it's very agreeable. Like I said, this is not what we saw the other day. The models have not been agreeing whatsoever. Low to mid 60s are the first to start, and we could even see some areas upper 50s to low 60s. I expect probably Wednesday's dew points to be the absolute hottest, probably into southwestern Maine, where we could see dew points potentially approaching 65 to as much as maybe 68 degrees for dew points, but I don't think we'll get much warmer than that. Wednesday afternoon, again, you see this reoccurrence of the dew points. I think the GFS model may just be going a little bit overboard, but I think it's doing the primary job here of dew points into the mid and upper 70s, which is not something you see every day in Maine. And this is just going to be reoccurring over and over again. We're going to see a brief around probably midday Friday of another boost of dew points into the 70s. Well, at least the low to 70s. We could see mid 70s as well. That's not out of the question. Saturday, once again. The problem with Saturday's forecast is the GFS model is not really seeing the cold front. Well, I think it's seeing the cold front. I think it's just pushing a little too far south too quickly. And I have not taken a look at the other weather models, so that's just, a generic thing. And then I think we're just going to continue to see this reemerge of dew points. And, oh my lord, if you can see this from the Gulf of America, you can see all this pumping of this moisture. So now that we have this, we need to go over the heat indexes. And I'm going to use, I think that was actually a pretty good idea, I'm going to go over the National Weather Service blend of models. So the National Weather Service blend of models has right now our absolute maximum heat indexes, as if this will load. Now the National Weather Service is okay to agree with. I mean, they do the best they can. I personally don't really agree with them, but they try to get there anyways. So again, I think I'm already agreeing with what I'm seeing as far as the National Weather Service blend of models. It looks like we could reach into the mid to upper 80s for heat indexes, but things quickly ramp up on Wednesday, and I hope they show this because it gets pretty extreme. Yes, right there, but that's not even it. the one problem I'm seeing already with the heat index for Thursday is that it's just not picking up on. Okay, there we go. I think honestly this is a bit overboard. I don't think we're going to be seeing widespread 100 plus degree heat indexes. I think we're going to get more closer to 100, like a typical Maine heat wave. But this is certainly not out of the question. And then as you can see down and through southern New England and the mid-Atlantic, you can just see these temperatures for these heat indexes are just off the charts. Friday continuing on, again, another day. I don't agree with this. Another day of just widespread 100s for heat indexes. I think it's going to be more 90 to 95 plus with the isolated areas. It could be isolated scattered areas picking up, getting as much as, 95 to 98 degrees, maybe even 99, but I don't think we're going to see widespread 100s like the National Weather Service blended models is suggesting. And by the way, what the National Weather Service blended models is suggesting here is a combination of, it's basically just a combination of all the weather models combined and just, putting it out there. Saturday, again, I think I can agree with it a bit more, but after seeing that, I don't know. We're seeing, again, widespread 90s for heat indexes Saturday, and it's trying to hint at Sunday too, but more favorable. This is what we kind of saw on the European NGFS models. You can see the heat indexes are into the mid-80s. What do I think? Well, to be honest, so here's my look at things here. And also, don't worry about, no rainfall out of this. We're likely going to see widespread pop-up showers and thunderstorms, and they're probably going to be quite scattered throughout the week as well, throughout the state. So it's going to be quite hard to be missed by a thunderstorm this week, I do think. And the main days for thunderstorm activity are Thursday afternoon, Wednesday afternoon, Tuesday afternoon, especially across portions of the north, basically just around northern Vermont and north central Vermont and north central New York. But here we go. So we're going to see multiple rounds of showers and thunderstorms come through. So it's going to be kind of hard to just get away from it completely. There's our first cold front right here, extending that warm front all the way through portions of the Maine. And then it's got a cold front. It's hard to see, but it kind of goes like this. And then that's the jet stream as well. By Thursday, we see more of, and then Saturday, I really think is the day that's going to be most scattered for most areas. We're likely to see a cold front develop and just kind of slice through the eastern half of the country and wipe this this heat wave out of here. But we will likely still see the reoccurrence of heat waves and dew points. Well, heat waves, I'm going to call this a super heat wave because it's pretty obvious. But anyways, my prediction is basically I think we're going to see, I have pretty high confidence that we're going to see, I wish I had a pen, but pretty much up and down the I-95 corridor. I think from about, drawing my line here south, I think there's good potential for seeing temperatures into the mid and upper 80s to potentially low to mid 90s with the potential of 95 plus degrees. I think a few areas in southern Maine and a few areas in portions of southwestern Maine, especially interior southwestern Maine, more like portions of Augusta, up towards Skowhegan, areas like that, and potentially even Bangor, could have a potential run at 100 degrees for heat indexes. I think the dew points are a little overdone. I think I agree with dew points going into the mid and upper 60s, potentially upper 60s, and the potential for at least low to mid 90s and low to mid 70s. I think low to mid 70s are to be expected. I'm just gonna have to see if I actually believe it, but that is the prediction. So the dew points. So I think the hottest days are going to be Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Wednesday will likely be temperatures into the upper low to mid 90s, and in some cases upper 90s, if not 100 degrees. Heat indexes will be well into the upper 90s, mid to upper 90s, and low 100s. All week, all from about Wednesday through Saturday. That is what I'm thinking. Saturday, probably not as much, more like 80s with dew points in the 60s and 70s. Probably not as high as dew points, but we still could see dew points any days, especially on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, into the low to the mid, potentially even upper 70s for dew points. And looking at the data, I think there's potential for severe thunderstorms. Really, Wednesday night, Thursday night, and Saturday night as well. I think there's potential for severe thunderstorms. I am a little bit more concerned for Tuesday night's severe weather threat because it is going to be kind of a cold front, and you'll see it here through Monday that comes through here. When you see something like this, there's a 2% tornado risk that kind of goes in here. When you see more of a line of scattered showers and thunderstorms, this is going to be more of a scattered kind of kind of scattered, but scattered to I'm trying to semi-discrete thunderstorms up through here, which I think if it can like on upper branches we could see what is called a QCLS tornado threat, which is rotation or tornadoes within the line of thunderstorms. I think it's a very small chance, but I think it could potentially happen in the areas seen here. And then as it continues to go through the state, I think we're just going to be dealing with more of still a potential tornado threat. I just think it's just being Maine, it's going to be low. I do think there is a threat for 5% tornado risk here. I don't think it's going to be a hatched risk. I just think it's going to be a 5% tornado risk. Because if you see what I'm talking about here and it finally turns this into a normal line of thunderstorms, you're talking more like just damaging winds. Wednesday, Thursday evening, you finally get a round of thunderstorms that come through between about 8 and 11 p.m. I think this could be a similar situation where you could see the potential for scattered showers and thunderstorms that produce strong to potentially damaging wind gusts, small hail, and the potential for a brief tornado. Again, the tornado parameters are not impressive. I'm not thinking, but I do think it will be something. And then going finally, Friday is not much of anything. Saturday afternoon is when we really have to watch. And now that we're building this confidence that we're going to see a squall line, basically through through basically this entire spot, forming in the mid-morning hours on Saturday into Canada and falling southeast. I think there could be a risk of an enhanced risk of severe weather issued here due to damaging winds. The winds aloft or the low-level winds are going to be pretty much 35 to 40 knots, but with a segment like this, with a large line of scattered thunderstorms, you're likely to see more of a damaging wind threat. And I think everywhere else it will be mostly a marginal risk of severe weather, but I think we do have the potential for at least a slight, if not enhanced risk of severe weather here. And this would not be the first time in history that we have ever seen an enhanced risk of severe weather pushed so far back into western or east central Maine. So yeah, that's my look at things. And then things are pretty much done as that cold front slides through. There's still the chance for at least some pop-up showers and thunderstorms, and I think that trend will continue. So yeah, that's my look at things. But yeah, as far as the severe weather goes, I did want to mention this. You're seeing, this is the severe weather outbreak for today. It has nothing to do with Maine. There's a 10% hatch risk of tornadoes, a 15%, a SIG 1, 15%. So it would be a SIG 1, 10% hatch risk of tornadoes, a SIG 1, 15% hatch risk of damaging winds, and a SIG 1, 15% hatch risk of large hail. Then here's when things get interesting. With the bow echoing segment, you can see where this is most likely going to occur in this yellow zone. This is a slight risk of severe weather, and they push the marginal risk of severe weather into portions of far extreme western Maine. There is a potential for tornadoes. I don't think we're going to see a tornado outbreak in portions of northern New England, but I do think there's the chance for at least a couple of tornadoes within that line of thunderstorms. And then the 2%, you can barely see it, but it kind of hugs into extreme northwestern Maine. The 5% tornado risk I agree with, and the 2% I also agree with. A squall line, or what we could likely see a bow echoing segment, has the potential to produce quick spin up tornadoes. There's also a damaging wind risk, which is slightly elevated. Still just a slight risk of just a 15% risk of damaging winds, but that 5% risk does expand into portions of the extreme western Maine. And then hail is out of the question, but I still think even in this area, we're going to see probably 2 lines of thunderstorms come through, one in the afternoon on Tuesday into Wednesday, and then early Wednesday morning through late in the day on Wednesday, we're going to see this line of thunderstorms kind of backdoor cold front, almost call it, come through with the potential for gusty to potentially damaging winds. I could even see the threat for some hail as well. So I think this hail risk could be expanded, but I think they've got it pretty much nailed down. And then finally, the severe weather risk for Wednesday into Thursday. As you can see, there's already a marginal risk of severe weather in place for this day. It's going to be mostly an afternoon and evening and overnight type deal. And this is most likely going to be a damaging wind threat, with a 5% risk being already there. But yeah, that's the weather forecast for my perspective. That's weather forecast for me for Maine. But yeah.